As Mindy said, my name is Josh Peters, and I'm the voting member from the Indiana Stonewall Democrats on the Central Committee, and also the president of Indiana Stonewall Democrats, and the former executive director at Marion County Democratic Party. As far as Indiana Stonewall Democrats, I just want to tell you about our mission to start with, and basically our job is to support candidates that prove themselves allies, and legislation that improves the lives of not only our community, but all Hoosiers. So everything we do is meant to kind of fall into that really broad mission. A little bit of background. As far as the Young Democrats experience from organizing kind of a resurgent new chapter of the Marion County Young Democrats in the spring of 2015, I was approached by a gentleman named Aaron Ketzenberger, who was a Senate intern at the time, and there hadn't been an active Marion County Young Democrats for a couple years. I think the last time it really got going was around the 08 cycle, and then maybe through 12, and then it had kind of died off and stopped meeting. And so he basically, saw that gap, and as I think then political director at Marion County Democratic Party, he approached me to say, what can we do to get this going again? And so we brainstormed and just talked about what we needed to do, what the bylaws would look like, and started talking about the kind of leadership team that we would want to assemble. And so part of that was a diversity factor. We wanted our Young Democrats chapter to be as diverse as possible, so we just kind of started trying to figure out who was active in politics, in that age range for Young Democrats, and tried to bring them in to be part of the planning process to get it going. And actually, we got a bit of a boon to all that activity for kind of a sad reason, but that was during the time of REFRA, when that was all exploding.
Yep.
And so that March 28th, 2015 REFRA rally was just maybe a month or two after we had started talking about getting the Young Democrats up and running again. And so we, threw together a logo out in, last minute, got some meeting space at the IBEW, and just planned a meeting and said, let's hand these out at the REFRA rally and just see if we can get not only our own, circle of friends that, we can contact through social media, but also maybe some, people who wouldn't normally be involved but are at this REFRA rally. And it was a success. I remember at least 6 or 8 people being at that first meeting that had the flyer with them, the little palm card we had made. So, just kind of capitalizing on that moment in time gave us a little bit of a kickstart to that Young Democrats chapter in Marion County. And then basically just started organizing those monthly meetings, tried to plan content, make sure that we had public speakers that were going to be interesting, that people wanted to hear from. I think one of our first meetings we had Andre Carson, which was just a great way to get it going. And I'm not in leadership with that Young Democrats chapter anymore, but it's in very capable hands, and is meeting every month and growing membership and having fundraisers both for themselves and for candidates. So that's just one example of some of the constituency caucus work that I've done from that side. On the Indiana Stonewall Democrats side, I think it was late in 2015, I was actually asked by Kate Sweeney Bell to come to one of the board meetings. She just decided that I probably needed to be a part of that organization, and that it could use my energy and ideas and whatnot. And so I, on a whim, went to the board meeting, and she just kind of said, I want him to be a board member, and introduced it and just made it happen. And so within a few months, I was just trying to be as helpful and asking questions about where we were, what our goals were, and we realized that we had missed, or were fast approaching, a leadership election for Indiana Stonewall Democrats per our bylaws. So we just had a conversation amongst the board of like, okay, well, who actually wants to step up and do these jobs, because they're important. Somebody has to be the person who's really putting in the time. Can't run a constituency caucus and expect it to run itself. I mean, it's a lot of after work stuff and weekend stuff and on your break stuff. So, who were the people who were really willing to step up? And everybody kind of had different ideas of where they fit into that kind of president, vice president, secretary place. And we all agreed on 4 people running for 4 certain spots, and we didn't even really have much of a contest, but I was elected president of Indiana Stonewall Democrats in April of 2016. And from the beginning, it was more about just getting our membership built, having events, get people's contact information, some dues, and also to do some fundraisers for not only our organization so that we could, have a presence that summer, but also for candidates. We had a fundraiser for John Gregg that year, and so that was our concentration. It was not as much on building affiliated, regional organizations below our statewide structure. But once we got through 2016, that is really where our attention turned. We realized that we needed to try to have as much balance on the board regionally as we could, and that one of the best ways to do that would be to get these affiliated organizations, regional chapters of the Indiana Stonewall Democrats, around the state as much as possible. And we've had a couple success stories. The one that I'd like to point out the most is we have what are being called the Clark Stonewall Democrats. That's the Floyd County and Clark County Democrats. They're sitting over there. Stand up and say, they don't have a bunch of t-shirts with them, but they're selling them and they can send them to you, and he's showing it off there. And yeah, show it back. What's the hashtag? Clark Stonewall, right? Hashtag Clark Stonewall. And so they had their first meeting, I think it was February of this year, and Senator Donnelly was at their first meeting of that regional organization. So just really proud of them and happy that they've really fully engaged. Also had interest from Allen County. I know that I've talked to Mindy and others about trying to get a chapter started up there. In Wayne County, a gentleman named David Covine got a hold of me with some interest. And so I'm trying to work with him to get a meeting set up so we can talk about how that'll work. In Bloomington, there's a lady named Jean Smith who I'm trying to get her to help be my connection down there to really get some kind of organization going. I feel like that should be pretty easy with Bloomington, with the college down there with IU. So we're hopeful that we're going to be able to continue to build on that into different college, county, and geographical areas. As far as suggestions on kind of how to get that rolling, part of it is to immediately start building an email list. As county leadership, if you don't have some kind of email list that you're communicating with on a fairly regular basis, that should be one of your first steps to try to make happen. And not only use it, but also lend that list to those constituency caucuses that are getting started so that they can communicate about their events and what they're doing to try to get everybody involved. The one thing I'd say about email lists is not too much, right? So don't email people every day, or the unsubscribe amount will you'll end up doing more damage than good. But used properly, an email blast regimen can be very, very effective. I'm sure you guys know that. You guys and girls know this. Go to everything you can go to. Every event that is either civic or politically organized that you think good Democrats will be at, you got to go to it, you got to work the crowd, you got to tell them that you're the county chair or a county official and what you're trying to do to try to make these connections to get these constituency caucuses organized. Obviously, nurture and support those new chapters as they start to pop up. Learn to delegate. You all have executive teams around you. It's not just the chair. You need to make that board, that executive board, a working board, and expect everybody on that team to kind of pick up these certain pieces so that you can be effective in getting all this organization done, because one person